If something walks like a duck and sounds like a duck, your first instinct will probably be that it is a duck. But there will always be people who will claim it's a goose, or a swan, or some asshole that'll correct you and say it's actually a mallard. This is where nuance gets lost in discussions like these. I'm not saying we shouldn't explore the finer details. That's actually where most of the critical analysis should be. However, it shouldn't be our sole focus. More often than not, we start to lose the plot and stray away from the main subject at hand. And this is by design. It is a tool of the people in power, a distraction to keep us occupied while they systematically take over our country. I have a question for you. Does anything ever happen? You've probably heard people claim that nothing ever happens. They analyze current political events, and when nothing of note comes from it, they conclude that nothing ever happens. And when you perceive things at a micro scale, they're right, nothing ever happens. But that's why it is precisely the most dangerous mindset to have. I have another question for you. This man, what's his story? Where does it begin? For some people, you probably think to start at his birth, or maybe when he fought in World War I. But I'm fairly certain most Americans will start at when he invaded Poland and kickstarted World War II. There's nothing wrong with starting there. It was one of the most consequential moments in human history. However, most people tend to forget the years before he invaded Poland, the 6 years he was in power. Many people wonder how the Nazis got to power, wonder why people didn't start revolting. But the answer is simple. It's because the Nazi takeover was slow and gradual, enough to keep most of the German public questioning if anything was even happening. That's not to say that big moments didn't happen. The Reichstag fire happened within just a few weeks of Hitler taking office. It was a false flag operation that allowed the Nazis to convince the German president to sign a decree that stripped people of their civil liberties, like freedom of speech, assembly, privacy, etc. It gave way for local police to make arrests without charges. Except most Germans didn't mind. They were okay with the government overreach because it was framed as restoring law and order. They were fine with unlawful arrest because they were only targeting Marxists and foreign invaders at first. To Germans unaffected by the initial arrest, nothing really happened after the fire. Their life wasn't tangibly different. A few months later, the Nazis started installing loyalists in enough states to give them majority control. They replaced the people in local government, specifically the ones who oversaw the police, and installed their own. This stripped the local police of their independence and made them agents of the Nazis. But again, to the Germans the Nazis weren't targeting, nothing changed that much. A couple months after the Nazis started to purge officers that weren't loyal to the cause, they created the Gestapo and started to forcibly integrate the SS into local police. Months after that, they ordered the police to kill their non-SS leadership, even the ones who helped the SS, as a way to test if the police could act as a political arm for the Nazis. But it was okay to the German public because the killings were framed as preventing treason. And again, they weren't going after the ordinary citizens yet, so nothing was really happening. In the following year, the Nazis expanded the Gestapo authority to all states. Hitler then appointed Heinrich Himmler as the chief of all German police. In just a few years, Germany went from a democracy to a total police state. And now every German had to conform to the Nazi way of life and submit to their authority, or else they would die. Or worse, they would get sent to a concentration camp. I guess something was really happening. I know this comparison between Trump and Hitler has been exhausted already. We've become jaded to the overreach and fascist tendencies of the current administration. But that is precisely what they want. They want us to not care, to say that nothing ever happens, to be yelling at each other over an imaginary foreign invasion when the real one is happening from within. The real invasion is happening as we speak at the White House. When Trump takes over the National Guard and sends the military to LA to shut down a protest, that is a baby step. When Trump is forcing Greg Abbott to redraw their districts to take away the voting power of nearly half of Texas, that is a baby step. When Trump takes over command of the DC police and puts them under the control of Pam Bondi, that is a baby step. And that is not conjecture. He literally said the plan is to do this to more major cities in the country. So I say it again, if it walks like a duck and sounds like a duck, then it is a fucking duck.